The first contact of the night sky was clear and calm over Earth. No one knew that a massive event was about to unfold, something that would change the course of history forever. It started with a signal, a strange transmission picked up by Earth's best scientists. At first, they thought it was just a glitch, an odd coincidence in the data. But as they looked closer, they realized it wasn't a mistake. It was real. The signal was coming from deep in space, far beyond the edges of the solar system. The frequency was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. For days, the experts analyzed the data, trying to figure out its meaning. But the answer was terrifying. It wasn't just a signal, it was a warning. The aliens were coming, and they were coming in a fleet unlike anything Earth had ever seen. They were not a single ship or a small group. They were billions strong, stretching across the stars. Their fleet was vast, covering every corner of the galaxy. The signal they had sent was their way of announcing their arrival. They had been watching Earth for a long time, and now they were ready to make their move. When the news broke, panic spread across the globe. The leaders of the world held emergency meetings, trying to figure out what to do. The reality was clear. Humanity had never faced anything like this. There was no way to fight a force this powerful. No army, no weapon, no strategy could hope to defeat billions of enemies coming from the stars. In the halls of the United Nations, the world's top generals and scientists gathered, facing the greatest threat Earth had ever known. The room was filled with tension. Everyone was silent, unsure of what to say. They were all thinking the same thing. How could they possibly stand against such an overwhelming force? General Matthews, one of the highest-ranking officers in the world, stood up. He had been through countless battles in his career, but this was different. He cleared his throat and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "We can't let fear control us," he said. "We have one advantage. We are united. If we combine our strengths, we may stand a chance." But even as he spoke, doubts lingered in the air. How could Earth stand up to billions of aliens, each with their own advanced technology? How could humanity fight back when the enemy's numbers were so overwhelming? The fear was palpable, but General Matthews refused to back down. He knew that humanity's spirit could be its greatest weapon. The message from the aliens was clear. They were coming to Earth, and they expected to conquer it. But humanity refused to be intimidated. The general began to think of a plan, one that would give Earth its best chance. The answer lay not in matching the enemy's strength, but in outsmarting them. Matthews wasn't the only one thinking this. Around the world, scientists, engineers, and military leaders started working together, focusing on a single goal: survival. The first step was to understand the alien technology. They needed to learn everything they could about their ships, their weapons, and their defenses. Time was running out, and the alien fleet was closing in on Earth. With every passing day, the message from the alien fleet was chilling. "We are coming. Prepare yourselves." But humanity refused to submit. Instead of panicking, the people of Earth rallied together. Nations that had once been rivals set aside their differences. The scientists shared their knowledge, and the military worked day and night to build a defense that could stand against the alien force. But as the days passed, the alien fleet grew closer. The tension on Earth reached a breaking point. The world's leaders knew that they had only one chance to stop the aliens before it was too late. The countdown had begun, and humanity had to act fast. As the alien ships came into view, their massive size was impossible to ignore. They were unlike anything Earth had ever seen, ships that seemed to stretch for miles. The sheer scale of the invasion was staggering. Each ship was like a floating city, filled with alien soldiers and advanced weapons. But even as fear gripped the world, there was a spark of hope. Humanity had one thing the aliens didn't: its will to fight. The generals' voice echoed in the minds of those who stood ready to defend Earth. We will fight back. We will not give up. This is our world, and we will protect it. The countdown continued. The clock ticked down, and humanity's plan began to take shape. The war for Earth had just begun, and despite the overwhelming odds, humanity had no intention of going down without a fight. Asterisk. The call to arms, the first day of the invasion, arrived without warning. The sky, once a place of endless stars, now filled with massive ships, alien war vessels that dwarfed Earth's biggest cities. As the fleet's shadow stretched over the planet, panic swept across the globe. People rushed to hide, but it was clear that hiding wouldn't save them. In the wake of the panic, General Matthews stood before the world's leaders once more, but this time there was no fear in his eyes. His calmness seemed out of place in such a chaotic moment, but it was what humanity needed. The military, engineers, and scientists had been working together, and they had a plan. But the plan required something more, something that had always been part of humanity's nature: unity. We can't let this divide us, Matthews said to the world's leaders. The only way we stand a chance is if we fight together. Not as countries, but as one world. The enemy is too strong to be fought alone, but together we have the strength to stand our ground. The leaders hesitated at first. History had shown that when humanity came together, there were always internal struggles. The scars of war and division between nations ran deep. But when faced with the threat of total annihilation, the world's leaders realized they had no choice. They had to set aside their differences, for their survival depended on it. Within hours, nations across the globe pledged to cooperate. All military forces, no matter their allegiance, began to share their resources, intelligence, and strategies. But there was one thing that stood in their way. Earth had never faced an enemy like this. No weapons, no technology, and no known strategy could match the alien fleet's sheer power. Desperation began to set in, but General Matthews refused to give up. He gathered his top strategists, military officers, and the best minds Earth had to offer. Together, they came up with a plan, a daring, unorthodox approach that could potentially turn the tide. But it would take everything they had, and more. We need to think beyond our weapons, Matthews said. The enemy doesn't know us. They underestimate us. We have to show them that Earth is not a planet to be conquered. We must fight in a way they will never expect. The plan involved creating a weapon unlike anything seen before, a massive warship, one that would be the first line of defense against the aliens. But the challenge was monumental. They had to build it quickly, gather resources from every nation, and integrate technology that had never been tested. The clock was ticking, and with each passing day, the alien fleet grew closer. As the construction began, Earth's military forces rallied together, working tirelessly to get the warship ready. But the mission was risky. They knew they would have only one shot at this. If the ship failed, humanity would have no other option but to fight with whatever they had left. Meanwhile, General Matthews and his team worked on their next step. Earth's military forces would need to be organized, disciplined, and ready for whatever came next. The warship would be their first strike, but they would need an army to back it up. They sent out urgent calls to every corner of the world, recruiting anyone capable of fighting. In response, millions volunteered to defend their planet. Soldiers, civilians, engineers, scientists, and even farmers came together to form Earth's United Defense Force. The call to arms had united the world in a way never seen before. Everyone from every walk of life knew what was at stake. As the warship began to take shape, Earth's hope grew. The warship would be Earth's symbol of defiance, a statement to the aliens that humanity would not go down without a fight. The ship's design was a fusion of the world's most advanced technology and an innovative, New weapon, a railgun that could fire at devastating speeds. But more than that, it carried something even more important. The spirit of humanity, united against a common enemy. The final days before the alien fleet's arrival were filled with tension. Earth's defenses were far from perfect, but they had one thing that the aliens didn't resolve. People from every country, from every culture, came together, knowing that this battle would define the future of humanity. The day before the alien fleet arrived, General Matthews stood on the deck of the warship, looking out at the horizon. He could see the distant stars and the shadows of the alien ships approaching. He turned to the crew, his face hardening with determination. "We are Earth's last line of defense," Matthews said. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of every person on this planet. This is our world. We will not let it fall." The crew stood silent, nodding in agreement. It was time. Time to make the impossible possible. Time to send a message to the universe. Earth would not be conquered. As the alien ships finally entered Earth's atmosphere, the world held its breath. Earth's united front was ready, and the battle for survival had begun. Asterisk. The weapon of hope. The morning the warship was ready, it seemed as if the world itself held its breath. The people of Earth, who had once been divided by countless differences, now stood united under one common cause: survival. The warship, Hope's fire, was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Its massive structure towered over the horizon, reflecting the rising sun with gleaming steel. At its heart was the railgun, a weapon designed to fire a single shot with enough power to obliterate an enemy ship in one go. General Matthews stood on the command deck, gazing at the warship, his heart pounding in his chest. He had spent countless hours overseeing its construction, ensuring every detail was perfect, every system optimized. But now, as the alien fleet drew closer, the weight of what they were about to face began to settle in. "We only get one shot," Matthews said quietly to his team. "This is humanity's only chance." The warship, though powerful, was still vulnerable. They had no idea what kind of technology the aliens possessed, and there was no way to predict how they would respond to Earth's weapon. What they did know, however, was that this was Earth's last stand. Across the globe, the moment had arrived. The rest of Earth's defenses, though powerful, were now secondary to Hope's fire. Ground forces were ready to fight on the front lines, but the warship would be the spearhead. Its crew, made up of the best soldiers and engineers from every nation, stood at the ready. Their mission was clear: destroy the alien flagship, and with it, the command center of the enemy's fleet. As the first reports came in, the aliens were getting closer. They had reached Earth's outer orbit, and now there was no turning back. The air was thick with tension, and the countdown began. Hope's fire slowly moved into position, its railgun aimed directly at the heart of the alien fleet, firing in 5, 4, 3. The voice on the intercom echoed through the corridors of the ship. The crew was silent, their eyes fixed on the control panels, their hands steady. This was it, the moment that would decide humanity's fate. 2, 1, fire. The sound of the railgun firing was like thunder, shaking the warship to its core. The single shot, faster than the speed of light, tore through space with unrelenting force. In an instant, it collided with the nearest alien ship, and the result was cataclysmic. The ship exploded in a burst of light, its debris scattered across the void of space. Earth had landed its first blow, but the alien fleet didn't hesitate. They retaliated with devastating speed and precision, launching a barrage of energy weapons in response. Earth's defenses were stretched thin, and the alien ships swarmed forward, undeterred by the loss of one vessel. Humanity's first victory had been short-lived, but it wasn't over. General Matthews stood at the command console, watching as the alien fleet closed in. They had expected this. The aliens would not stop because of one blow. But Hope's fire had done what was thought impossible. It had given humanity a fighting chance. And that, in itself, was a victory. We'll make them pay for every inch, Matthews muttered, his eyes hardening with resolve. The battle raged on, but humanity had learned one thing in these first few hours. They could fight back. The fear that had gripped Earth in the beginning began to shift into something else. Hope. For the first time, they believed they could win. As the warship continued to fire its powerful shots, Earth's ground forces launched their own attacks. Fighter jets and tanks were deployed, working in perfect coordination with a massive warship. The world's armies fought together as one, united against an enemy that had once seemed unbeatable. But even as the battle intensified, it was clear that the enemy was not giving up. The aliens' tactics were ruthless, their technology beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. Yet for every blow the aliens struck, humanity responded with tenfold strength. They fought for survival, for their homes, and for their children. Warship fired again. Another direct hit, and another alien ship was destroyed. The crew of Hope's Fire cheered, but their celebration was short-lived. They had to stay focused. Every second counted. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold from their screens, their hearts in their throats. They knew the world was watching, but they also knew the entire future of humanity depended on the outcome. With each shot fired, they were reminded of the price they would have to pay. The first few hours of the battle felt like an eternity. The warship continued to fire relentlessly, tearing through the alien fleet, but Earth's forces couldn't slow the aliens down completely. The massive ships kept coming, and they were not going to stop until they had crushed humanity. But as the battle continued, the message was clear. Humanity would not go quietly. The warship, with all of Earth's hope riding on it, would continue to fight. And with each victory, no matter how small, humanity's belief in their victory grew stronger. The tide of the battle was slowly turning, but Earth had not yet won. The war was far from over, and humanity would have to keep fighting if they were to survive. But one thing was certain. Earth had proven that they were not the helpless species the aliens had once thought them to be. Humanity would never stop fighting. Not as long as there was breath in their bodies. Asterisk the clash as the battle continued. It became clear that humanity's early victories had only scratched the surface of what was needed to drive the alien invaders back. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens underestimated one thing: humanity's will to survive. The alien ships, still relentless, pressed forward, bringing with them waves of destruction. Yet for every alien ship that fell, another seemed to take its place, more powerful and determined than ever. Hope's Fire, humanity's shining beacon of resistance, continued to fire its railgun at the alien fleet. Each shot tore through the enemy lines, but Earth's forces were running low on ammunition, and their defenses were slowly being overrun. The once unified ground forces were now scattered, trying desperately to fend off the incoming alien forces. The sky was filled with the flashing lights of explosions as fighter jets danced with the alien ships, weaving through the chaos. General Matthews stood on the bridge, watching the madness unfold. His mind raced with strategies, trying to make sense of it all. He could see it. Humanity was strong, but there was something they hadn't accounted for. The alien fleet had a new weapon, one that was more devastating than anything they had faced before. It wasn't just their ships that were a threat anymore. The aliens had developed technology that could tear apart the human war machines in a matter of seconds. As Matthews watched, an explosion ripped through the sky, lighting up the dark void. One of Earth's ships had been destroyed. His heart sank, but he knew they couldn't let fear take over. "We fight back, no matter the cost," Matthews said to his team, trying to hide the weight of what they were all feeling. The warship Hope's Fire fired another shot, this time aimed directly. at the alien command ship. The beam tore through the darkness, striking the alien flagship with a force that should have brought it to its knees. For a moment, everything seemed still. And then the alien ship's defenses activated, and the shot was deflected, leaving behind nothing but a sparkling burst of energy. The alien fleet continued to advance, unscathed. "We're losing ground." One of the crew members yelled, "We need to do anything now." Matthews nodded grimly. The situation was becoming dire. "We have no choice. We'll engage them directly, at close range. Prepare the team for a boarding mission." The plan was risky, almost suicidal, but Matthews knew it was their best shot. They had to get inside the enemy fleet, find the heart of their command, and disable their ships from within. They could no longer rely on sheer firepower alone. Earth's forces needed to infiltrate, disrupt the aliens' command center, and break their control over the fleet. The crew worked quickly, prepping for the high-risk mission. The bridge was filled with urgency as Matthews ordered the deployment of boarding parties. Earth's remaining elite soldiers would storm the alien ships and fight their way to the control rooms, hoping to disrupt the alien fleet from within. Moments later, as Earth's forces prepared to launch their assault, a sudden shockwave rattled Hope's fire. The alien fleet had unleashed a new weapon, a devastating pulse wave that disoriented every piece of technology it touched. All systems aboard the warship flickered, and for a brief, terrifying second, it seemed like the warship itself might be destroyed. "Status report," Matthews barked. "Everything's down." One of the engineers shouted, "The pulse wave disabled our weapons, shields, and communication systems. We're sitting ducks." "Get us moving," Matthews ordered. "We need to get within range before they can hit us again." The command was given, and the warship lurched forward, fighting to stay in the game. The alien ships continued their relentless assault, but now there was something different. The humans had an edge, an unexpected surge of determination, fueled by the thought of their families, their homes, their survival. On Earth's last line of defense, soldiers on the ground clashed with the alien invaders, their weapons firing with deadly precision. The battlefield was a mess of explosions, smoke, and screams as Earth soldiers held their ground against the alien invaders, forcing them to retreat. Meanwhile, in space, Matthews' boarding parties stormed the nearest alien ship. They fought through narrow corridors, cutting down alien soldiers who had no mercy, and made their way toward the heart of the enemy vessel. Each soldier knew the risks, and yet they fought like their lives depended on it, because they did. The soldiers, armed with specialized gear and close-range weaponry, reached the central command room of the alien ship. They were met with resistance alien guards, faster and stronger than any human, stood ready to defend their home. But the human soldiers fought back with everything they had, pushing through the aliens' defenses with raw determination. As the soldiers breached the control center, the alien leaders, the ones commanding the entire fleet, tried to regain control. But it was too late. The humans had planted explosives in the command center, designed to disable the alien fleet's central communication system. As the countdown began, Matthews' voice crackled through the communication system. "We've done our part. Now it's up to Earth to finish this." The final battle had begun. The human forces continued to hold their ground as their plan to take down the alien fleet unfolded. The fate of the galaxy was now in the hands of those brave enough to fight, and humanity was more than ready to prove it, had the heart to win. The countdown to the explosion echoed in their ears, and for a brief moment, time seemed to slow. Would the alien fleet crumble with the destruction of their command center? Or would the enemy find a way to rally, to retaliate with devastating force? The answer was unclear, but one thing was certain: Earth had never fought harder, and it was not about to give up now. Asterisk humanity's last stand. The sound of the explosion rang out across the stars. Hope's Fire and Earth's remaining warships had held their breath as the final countdown ticked to 0. The alien command ship now, reduced to debris, had taken down the central nervous system of their fleet. Silence, as strange as it was, fell over the battlefield for a brief moment. The Earth's forces, both in space and on the ground, waited in anticipation, unsure if the enemy would surrender or retaliate with all their fury. But it was the latter. First sign that the alien fleet was far from defeated was the appearance of a new, terrifying class of ship. These were not mere warships. They were massive, living weapons, biomechanical constructs, blending organic material with advanced technology. The new fleet was smarter, faster, and deadlier than anything Earth had faced before. They adapted quickly to their losses, their strategic minds immediately compensating for the loss of their central command. The moment they saw humanity's strength, they became even more determined to destroy it. The battle, once thought to be a fleeting chance for victory, now became a desperate fight for survival. On Earth's side, General Matthews looked out at the chaos unfolding before him on the bridge of Hope's Fire. His heart raced. He had seen countless battles in his life, but this was unlike anything before. There was no simple victory waiting for them at the end of this war. There was only survival. We need to act now. Matthews shouted, his voice cutting through the panic. If we don't destroy those new ships, they'll wipe us out before. We can even regroup. The warship had taken a beating, its weapons weakened and its shields faltering. But Matthews wasn't one to give up, and neither were his people. Earth's soldiers, tired and battered, had one final push left in them. The ground forces rallied, and with them came the last of Earth's mobile defense units. They made their final stand in cities across the planet, fighting the alien invaders in the streets, in the forests, and beneath the skies. But Earth wasn't just defending. It was also striking back with everything it had left. The railguns on Hope's Fire powered up one last time, and Matthews ordered a massive barrage targeting the heart of the alien fleet. The railguns. Blast hit its mark, sending a shockwave across space. For a moment, there was hope. The new alien ships began to falter, but it was clear that their numbers were endless. For every one ship Earth destroyed, 2 more appeared. Matthews' team struggled to keep up with the relentless assault. The situation was desperate. The warship was slowly becoming unfit for battle. The weapons were losing power, and the crew had run out of time. But Matthews had one last plan, one he had kept hidden for the worst-case scenario. Prepare the last light protocol. Matthews ordered. The crew hesitated for a moment. The last light was a risky maneuver, a last-ditch effort that involved sending Hope's Fire directly into the heart of the alien fleet. The ship would be sacrificed, but if they succeeded, it would take out a significant portion of the alien forces with it. We don't have a choice, Matthews said, his voice steady. This is it. The crew scrambled to prepare the protocol, activating the ship's final weapon systems. As the countdown began, Matthews stood alone at the bridge, gazing out at the enemy fleet. He wasn't ready to die, not yet, but he knew it was the only way. It wasn't just about saving Earth anymore. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be extinguished without a fight. Meanwhile, the remaining human forces on Earth and in space worked in unison. The alien fleet had made the mistake of underestimating them, and now Earth's remaining forces had gained a slight upper hand. The warships were targeting alien communication hubs, attempting to break their unity. The ground forces were pushing back the invaders inch by inch, even as they lost territory. Humanity was fighting for survival, and it wasn't about to give up. As the final seconds of the countdown ticked away, Matthews took a deep breath. He looked down at his hand, steady, and then turned to face the rest of the crew. The universe will remember this moment, he said. The crew responded with resolute silence. The final launch was no mere explosion. Hope's fire ignited a colossal burst of energy, an explosion of light and fire that enveloped the surrounding alien ships. The destruction was far-reaching, sending shockwaves through the very fabric of space itself. The shockwave traveled across the galaxy, lighting up stars and consuming everything in its path. For a brief moment, everything was still. Then, as the dust settled, the remaining alien ships hesitated. The human forces on Earth, battered, but relentless, continued to fight with renewed strength. The alien fleet had been fractured, but they had not surrendered. Not yet. General Matthews knew that humanity had not yet won. But Earth had made its stand. And now, with the surviving soldiers fighting every inch, the aliens realized that they were not invincible. They had underestimated humanity, and this would be their undoing. Not today, Matthews muttered, gripping a console in front of him. We are still here. In that moment, the future of the war was uncertain. But one thing was crystal clear. Humanity had proven to the galaxy that they could fight. They could endure, and they would never give up. No, matter the odds, and the universe would never forget the day Earth stood its ground. Asterisk. The turnaround, in the aftermath of Hope's Fire's devastating final strike, a strange silence settled over the battlefield. For a moment, it seemed as though the very stars themselves held their breath. The alien fleet, though still vast and menacing, was now fractured. Some ships were drifting aimlessly, their systems fried by the pulse of Hope's Fire's last, desperate attack. Others were no longer firing back, their communications scrambled by the shockwave of the explosion. General Matthews stood in the command center of Earth's remaining fleet, his eyes locked on the stars. The battlefield was now filled with the scattered wreckage of both alien and human ships, a sea of destruction stretching across the void. But in that mess, there was something new, something unexpected. The alien forces were no longer as coordinated as they had once been. The loss of their central command had caused disarray. They retreating. A voice broke through the silence, and Matthews turned to see Lieutenant Kara, his right-hand officer, staring at the screen in disbelief that it was true. The remaining alien ships, though formidable, seemed to be withdrawing, regrouping at the edges of the battlefield. This wasn't the triumphant retreat Matthews had anticipated. This was a panicked one. The aliens, who had once seemed invincible, were now hesitant. The fear that Matthews had seen in the eyes of his soldiers when the alien forces first appeared was now mirrored in the enemy's ranks. Why? Matthews muttered under his breath. What's causing this? The answer came from an unexpected source. On Earth's surface, amidst the chaos of the ongoing battle, a broadcast emerged. It was a human message, broadcast across every channel, every frequency, every corner of the planet. The message was broadcast by a group of survivors, working together in one last effort to shake the alien invaders. We are not just a world of soldiers, the voice said. We are a world of thinkers, of creators, of survivors. If you came to take us, know this. We are united, and together we will outlast you. It wasn't the threat of nuclear bombs or advanced weaponry that caused the aliens to hesitate. It was humanity's collective defiance. The message was a reminder to the aliens of what they had underestimated all along. Humanity's resilience and ingenuity. As the broadcast continued, humanity's forces on the ground and in space began to regroup. The fractured alien fleet now found itself facing an unexpected and unfamiliar challenge. Humans had learned from their earlier mistakes. They were no longer simply defending, they were fighting back with renewed strength. Coordinating across borders, using every available weapon, every strategy. In space, Earth's warships, though battered, began to pick up speed, utilizing newly developed weapons that had been in the works since the start of the invasion. They launched strikes at alien vessels with precision, working together in small, nimble squads. Earth's forces were no longer acting as a single mass to be crushed by the alien fleets. They were scattered, unpredictable, and working with intelligence that the aliens could no longer predict. "General, the alien fleet is starting to break apart," Kara said, her voice laced with disbelief. "Their command ship is gone. The remaining ships are disbanding. They're losing coordination." "It's working, sir." The realization hit Matthews like a thunderclap. Earth's forces, though outnumbered, had found a new way to fight. The strategy that had once seemed foolish fragmentation, unpredictability, a fight based on innovation rather than sheer firepower, was beginning to succeed. The aliens, for all their power, couldn't adapt fast enough to deal with humanity's new tactics. As Matthews watched the fleet unravel, something deep inside him stirred. Hope, once a distant memory, was now alive again. The unthinkable was happening. Humanity was turning the tide. The tide turned again when an unexpected ally appeared, one of the alien factions, who had previously been silent during the conflict, finally made contact. They had defected from the main fleet. Reasons unclear. Their ships were smaller, less technologically advanced than the rest, but they offered crucial intelligence. The aliens' unity was artificially maintained, bound by a single command ship. Without it, their fleets could no longer function cohesively. It was the breakthrough humanity had been waiting for. With this new intelligence, Earth's remaining fleet and forces began focusing their efforts on the remaining alien ships. They targeted weak points in the alien ships, exploited vulnerabilities in their defense systems, and used their new knowledge to dismantle the alien fleet piece by piece. The remaining aliens tried desperately to regroup, but it was too late. Their communication systems were no longer functioning at full capacity, and they lacked the leadership to coordinate a final counterattack. Earth's forces, while not without their own sacrifices, pressed forward relentlessly, taking advantage of every opportunity. General Matthews stood tall, looking out at the distant stars once again. It had taken every ounce of humanity's strength, ingenuity, and resilience, but Earth had finally turned the tide. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth: no force in the galaxy could extinguish them. The aliens were not done, and Earth's battle was far from finished. But now, humanity knew that as long as they stood together, as long as they kept fighting, there would always be a chance to win, and they were ready. The galaxy had never seen a force like this before. Victory and aftermath. The once bright stars above Earth were now dimmed by the smoke of battle. The alien ships, which had once filled the sky like an unstoppable storm, were now either drifting in the void or engulfed in fire and destruction. Earth's forces, battered but unbroken, stood victorious. The galactic invaders had been defeated, not completely, but enough to force them into retreat. The tide had turned, and the enemy was no longer a singular threat, but a fractured and uncertain force. General Matthews stood on the Bridge of Hope's fire, staring out at the remnants of the alien fleet. He could hardly believe it. The battle that had once seemed unwinnable had shifted in humanity's favor. The streets of Earth, once filled with chaos and despair, were now calm. Cities, though scarred, were beginning to rebuild. People who had been afraid for their lives were now cautiously optimistic. The world's unity had proven stronger than even the most powerful alien force. But Matthews knew the battle was not truly over. The aliens might have been pushed back, but they had not surrendered. Earth's victory was hard won, but it was only the beginning of something far more complicated. In the aftermath of the conflict, there was no grand celebration. Instead, there was work, endless work. Humanity had survived, but the cost was immense. Entire cities had been destroyed. Millions had lost their lives. And while the alien threat had receded, the scars left behind would take generations to heal. Earth had become a planet united, not by prosperity, but by a shared struggle. Earth's leaders, once scattered and divided, now found themselves working together in ways they never had before. Global leaders held new summits, not to divide, but to rebuild, to plan the future of a planet that had survived the impossible. The task ahead was daunting. Earth needed to repair not only its infrastructure, but its spirit. While Earth's governments worked tirelessly on recovery, the military continued to monitor the alien fleet's movements. General Matthews knew the war wasn't truly won. Not yet. The aliens were still out there, and while they had been scattered and disoriented, they would likely regroup. The real victory, Matthews knew, would come when Earth was strong enough to face whatever came next. The warships and soldiers, though, weary, remained ready for the worst. Meanwhile, a new message began circulating among the surviving alien factions. It was a call for peace. The alien forces, scattered and leaderless, had learned one painful lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The galaxy had seen a species that had fought with all its heart, that had refused to bow to overwhelming odds. Now, whispers of this conflict spread like wildfire. Other alien species began to take notice of the strength and resilience Earth had displayed. General Matthews, now seen as a hero across the globe, spoke to the world in a final broadcast. His words were simple, but carried a weight that would echo across history. "We have not won because we are the strongest, nor the smartest," Matthews said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We have won because we refuse to give up." The alien fleet came to take our planet, to crush us, but they underestimated something they could not understand: our will to fight, to survive. Today, humanity stands stronger than ever, and we will remain here, together, to protect our world and our future. The speech echoed across the planet, the words resonating in the hearts of every listener. Humanity, once divided and fragile, now stood as one. The war had forged a new unity, a new purpose. The message was clear: Earth had endured, and no force in the galaxy would take it without one hell of a fight. In the coming months, the remnants of the alien fleet were tracked down, piece by piece. Some ships were salvaged, their technology studied and analyzed, providing Earth with new insights into the enemies they had once feared. The war was officially over, but Earth's efforts to understand the alien species and their technology were just beginning. For General Matthews, the work was far from done. The galaxy was a vast and unknown place, and Earth had made its mark on it. There would be no complacency. Earth would never again be caught off guard. The war had taught humanity lessons they would carry with them forever: the power of unity, the strength of innovation, and the relentless will to survive. As Matthews looked out across the new world they were building, he felt a sense of pride. It wasn't a victory defined by grand triumphs or parades. It was a victory defined by the countless lives that had come together, by the sacrifices that had been made, and by the undeniable truth that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. Somewhere, deep in the stars, the message had been received. Earth had fought back. The galaxy would never forget. Asterisk.